February 27, 2023. This is the S&P 500 2000 tick chart on the Thinkorswim platform. This is what the chart looked like today. It was pretty choppy. I didn't find that many good opportunities to enter a trade. I only took one trade today. This is what my chart looked like. There's my one single trade. Let me kind of try to make this less cluttered. So what made it a little bit challenging today was there was not that many good opportunities, and there was not a very clean trading range, because you could say this is the top of the trading range, this is the bottom, but in between there was all these other little trading ranges. And other than trying to confirm the top of the bottom, it never really happened. Even though these mini trading ranges, it never quite made it up to the top, made a good clean test and come back down. So it was just kind of all over the place today. I only got in one profitable trade, and I think that's probably good just because things just weren't looking that great today. Also, the volatility was kind of low. Now, you don't have to watch this whole video, just go down in the descriptions and you can see the timestamps of where I took my trades and also other trades that I saw or just other little points of interest. So let me zoom in. Oh, before I continue, these arrows are just kind of indicators for me to show a measured move. I don't necessarily take a trade off of these measured moves, or if a measured move completes. It's just more for me to see where the extent of the price action could move. So these are just more for myself. Like one measured leg down here consolidates, another one, and these two smaller ones. So these are only mainly tools for myself. So there was also no catalyst today that caused the market to really do any knee-jerk reactions at any specific time. And this is the pre-market. Pre-market, I draw this trend channel going up. I had 2 touches, and then I had 3 touches, all before the market opened. I also had a trading range here and a trend channel going up. So as soon as the market opened, as far as I can tell, it looks like things are trending up. It opens, prices move, prices go down, breaks below the EMA, breaks outside of this trend channel that I've established. I don't know how valid it is. I have 3 touches at the top and 2 touches at the bottom. And then now it had a touch, but it broke through. So then I draw this trend channel going down. And what I do see is a second entry short. So right here is a first new low, first entry short, second entry short. Now this is actually a pretty good signal bar. It closed below the EMA, but it's kind of early in the day. And it's also counter trend right now, because right now the bias is going up. And it looks like it's kind of counter trending right now. So I just left this trade alone, which I was okay with. It turns out if you did take it, it would have worked. Then prices continue moving. I don't see any good trade setups yet. You could argue this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short. You could say that. I saw that. I didn't want to mark it or take the trade just because it closed above the EMA, and I don't know if it's going to move back up. It's a bearish close because it closed on the lower half, but it is above the EMA, so it wasn't anything to get me too excited about. Plus, the EMA is kind of flattening out right now, and I don't have a very clean trading range that I could establish to say, okay, that's the top of the trading range. Anyways, prices continue moving. I'm just waiting. I draw this other trend channel going up. Okay, so it's going to test this new high up here, I'm thinking. Prices continue moving. I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. You could argue there's a second entry long here. If you use a new high, first entry long, second entry long, it's too far from the EMA. I don't like that. And right about here, it breaks through this top of this trading range, which actually, this is not the top of the trading. I didn't know that at the time and draw it in later, but I had this as the top of the trading range because this is kind of where the pre-market was, where my cursor is. So it's definitely broke above and up. It's touching the top of this trend channel, but still nothing that I'm too excited about. Prices continue coming down, and this is where I take my first trade. So clearly I have a bullish bias. I had 2 legs up here. It pulls back, and I have 2 new legs going here. So it's kind of what I saw in real time. I also saw a new high, first entry long right here, a potential second entry long setting up. I have my order ready, and I actually enter on this candle, 1 tick above this guy, and my stop is actually below right here. I don't have this trading range established yet. It comes in later, but I felt that the EMA was strong. It's a break of this trend channel going down, this trend channel going up. So first break made 1 push. I was thinking at this point when I saw this close, it might make a second push to test this high. So it's kind of a calculated risk. So I was looking for 1 more push. It kind of oscillates a little bit and it finally fills me out here. Now, what I did was I didn't take a runner because I felt this is kind of already pretty high. So I just took the whole entire position off. So just entered once and exited once, no runner. Turns out the runner wouldn't really have worked because it would have come back down and stopped me out on this candle, actually on this candle. And that's okay. So that's my first trade of the day. Turns out to be the only trade. Now it's kind of chopping in this range, but then it doesn't respect the range very clean and it starts moving back down. So prices continue moving down. I don't really see a good clean setup. I draw this trend channel going down. It doesn't fit that well, but it's something to kind of use as a guideline. EMA is holding. Prices continue moving down. It looks like it's going into another trading range, which I actually had this lower line drawn up here at the time where the cursor is. So it's a little bit tighter, and I saw this as a breakout and fail breakout and comes back in, but there was no entry there. Prices are coming back down. EMA is holding. Right now it's getting very congested. And when I saw this break and down, I dragged the bottom of this guy originally up here, and I brought him all the way back down to here, just to kind of encapsulate this potential overshoot. And I see maybe a double bottom here, just to see if anything would set up. Fortunately, nothing really sets up. I do see a first entry short, second entry short. Now, second entry short is potentially also a fail breakout of this trading range, but I wasn't too sure yet. It would be going with trend, and I just decided to just kind of sit on it and I didn't really feel confident. If perhaps this bar had closed more bearish, like maybe a inverted hammer or a closed red, I might have taken a trade, but I just kind of sat on my hand and just let that one go. Turns out it would have worked, but depending on what your price target was, it might not have worked because it would have just chopped you around and potentially stopped you out. Because if you had your stop one tick above this guy, you would have gotten stopped out on this candle for sure. And one tick above this guy, you would have gotten stopped out by this candle for sure. So at this point in the day, I'm just watching and I'm thinking like, okay, this is a little confusing. It looks like it's went up, it's coming back down. Maybe it's going to touch this low, but I'm not 100% sure. I put the midline of this larger channel in by putting in this dotted dash line, but I was just still watching and waiting. Prices continue chopping around, goes down. And here, okay, let me just zoom in. Oops, too far. So here I saw a new high, goes down as a first entry long, coming up. There's a double top right here. And now it looks like it potentially could start a second entry long because I don't know yet. I see this bar finish, and I think it might go back into the trading range to be a failed breakout. It turns out it just exactly is that, a failed breakout. So it was a good signal bar. I wasn't ready. I didn't take the trade. You would have gotten your scalp. And now it touches here, and I'm thinking, okay, is the EMA going to hold? EMA doesn't hold, goes down lower. Now it could be considered a failed second entry long. Now this is a potential trade. Signal bar is pretty good. I mean, it closed kind of toward the middle, but you know, if you just sat there and waited, you'd see that this next one went all the way down. So I think if I had entered here, it would have been aggressive because when this candle closed, if you wanted to, you'd just be anticipating this failed second entry long, but you don't know if it's going to keep going. But when you see this candle close, you could put your entry one tick below here because the EMA rejected both of these candles, and you put your entry one tick here. And then on the next candle, unfortunately, it wouldn't have filled you because you'd be sitting up here waiting. But then you could take a bigger risk and put one tick below here, which I think is a little bit risky because at this time of day, you really don't know if this is going to be held or is it going to reject and continue down to this bottom of the trading range. So I have no idea. So I just sat there and watched. It's okay to let that trade go. I mean, better trades will come up later. I do feel that potentially it was a missed trade if I was a little more aggressive because it did break out of this downward descending trend channel, broke out, made one new high, and then as it comes back down, you could expect maybe a second high, but it was a little confusing here, so I wasn't 100% sure. Prices continue moving down. Turns out it would have been a nice trade. Got a second rejection of the EMA here. I'm just doing nothing, sitting on my hands. I see, so you know, you can see all kinds of setups potentially, but they're not high probability because you can say there's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. You could argue, okay, the second entry short, it kind of pulled back as an inside candle and then it came back and confirmed the second entry short, but then it's failing here. So depending on how aggressive you want to be and how much risk you want to take, you could be trading this chop. But I feel like it'd just be a dice roll. And taking that kind of chop in those trades, you're just going to end up in the long term losing a lot of money. Better just wait, watch, and learn. So here it kind of created this trading range. I had it drawn at this top here, and I actually had it a little bit lower, a little bit higher where this dash line is. Later, of course, I dragged it down and put the midline there, created a two-tier trading range. But at the time, just imagine this dash line and this top line were what I was working off of. But since it broke through, and I kind of tested the bottom, I did drag it down to here. And of course, I'm just sitting on my hands watching. Trade's breaking, and it looks like it's holding. It does do kind of a triple test. It's not very clean. I don't really like this because it broke lower than these two. So even though it's supposedly a triple test, I don't see if it was a triple test backed up with other key entry points, then I would potentially look to take that trade. Prices continue chopping, and so I do see this setup. So I see new high, first entry long, comes down, it breaks below, comes back up. I don't have it labeled as second entry long, but I'm watching it very carefully. I'm thinking if there's going to be a trade, I could potentially put it up here if the EMA is going to hold. But at this point, it's kind of just chopping around, and the overall character seems to be going down. Sorry about that. Seems to be going down. So I'm not 100% sure that's a trade to take. So I didn't do anything. And as you can see, when this candle forms afterwards, so this is your signal candle, this next candle, it holds the EMA, it breaks up above, and it kind of closed back below. So what I'm seeing here is like, okay, close above the EMA. It's also closed back into this trading range that I've established. So the trading range, usually if the breakout is going to fail. So I don't know if it's going to come back down or if the EMA is going to hold. So I have a dueling narrative of the EMA looking like it's going to be strong for price action, and potentially the trading range, which most times if you break out of the trading range, it's going to get pulled back in. Also, if this is kind of an upward bias or a bullish bias, like all the prices before this trading range was coming up, then I feel like, okay, there's a chance to take it to go long here. But as you see previously, it was kind of coming back down. So that just kind of made me say I should just stay away, just watch and don't do anything. It's not worth it. Today is a little confusing. Just kind of proving that out. Turns out it would have worked, but you don't know at the time. Prices continue. Right now the EMA is holding, so it's like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I don't see any good entries that I like until I get to about here. I see a new high, first entry long, second entry long. Now, had this candle actually formed a little bit better, because it's too neutral right now and it closed below the EMA, then if it was actually closed below down here, or just didn't have this big tick, it was just kind of like an inverted hammer to close red, then I would consider taking that as a failed second entry long. But since it's so neutral, it's just like, okay, well, that is unfortunately not any kind of setup worth taking. Turns out it would have worked, but of course you don't know it at the time. Prices continue chopping around, and it's just getting really choppy here. So then I do see another new high here. So right here, at this point in the day, if you zoom out, you're just like a little confused, or at least I was a little confused. My experience is telling me, which, I'm not as advanced as a lot of other traders, but I'm just saying, okay, it moved up, came down, it didn't make a new low. It's just kind of chopping the middle part. It's creating these intermediate trading ranges. So on top of that, these trading ranges, it's kind of like they're just little instances in time. There's no dominating trading range that it kind of comes back to. So it just tells me I have to be very careful. It's just not coming back quite to the same. You could argue there's a resistance right here, but I didn't kind of take that into account because there's only one confirmation right here and right here. So I just said, okay, well, overall, it's pretty choppy right now. You could argue there's a trading range here, which I didn't. I kind of thought about it briefly, like one here and down to here. But even then, this is a pretty wide trading range that a lot of little price actions, a lot of little overlapping trading ranges are still acting inside of. So I considered it, but I kind of let it go. So I did see, as I said, from here, there's like a first entry long right here, second entry long, but then it kind of chops around. But then you see a new low, first entry short, second entry short. So second entry short, if it had gone closer to this EMA, I would have felt a little more confident. But also, before this potential trade, the EMA was holding and supporting from below. And now it's kind of looking like it's going to try to crush prices down. So it's a little confusing for me. It's just like, okay, well, it touched the EMA. If it closed a little bit more, not like this, just a little more cleaner, it would have been like a more of an acceptable trade because first entry short, and then you see here, second entry short. I mean, right here, it confirms the second entry short, but it's too far from the EMA. I just didn't like that. Prices continue moving down, chops around. Looks like it's forming in another trading range. There's a lot of congestion here. You could argue there's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. It's a decent signal bar, but it's in the middle of the trading range. It's just kind of a lot of noise going on right now. So it's better just to sit and wait for a better setup, which is what I did. And then I see another second entry short coming up. So if you count this as a new low, it's first entry short, and as this one forms, it's touching the EMA. It has a repeat pattern. So certainly has a repeat pattern. I wasn't mentally prepared to take it, so I just said, you know what, it's getting late in the day. I'm not going to try to do a Hail Mary play to try to make more profits. I only had one good profitable trade, and that's certainly better than ending red. And it's certainly better than ending break even, because if you end up break even, that means you had to go through the mental roller coaster of making a green trade, then losing and making a red trade, and then you end up break even. So why even play through that? I was kind of already up green on the day, and I thought, okay, well, it's already late in the day. Don't try to hunt for anything that isn't there. This isn't the best setup. There is a descending trend line here, and as this one closed, if this had actually closed a little bit higher up, a little bit more bullish than this big move down, because now you have to either have taken it on the engulfing right here, but you'd have to have been confident that this is going to keep going down and not break up, or you'd have to take it down here, which is already kind of had previously a new low. So that was definitely not anything I wanted to take. It just looked too risky. And then prices continue moving, goes into a trading range, and this is actually a very nice setup. Unfortunately, if you look at the time of day, it's just too late in the day for me to want to take it, because you technically have a confirmed new low here, first entry short, second entry short. Now, when you try to break out and come back down, I did like that it broke and traded and closed below the EMA, and it looks like it wants to come back into this trading channel. So I thought this was a pretty good entry, or a pretty good trade to have taken, but by this time of the day, I was kind of like mentally fatigued watching this chop and this noise, focusing in and seeing if I could see a good trade or a good entry, reanalyzing, re-questioning some of my entries here or some of my markups here. And at this time of day, it was just kind of too late for me to try to take a trade. So turns out it would have worked. I mean, had this occurred earlier in the day, it would have been more I would have had more confidence to take the trade. And plus, if I get a losing red trade, it would have been nice to have more time to try to get it back. But I didn't want to potentially get back profits on a potential loss of this trade from the trade earlier. So didn't take the trade, continued watching. EMA is holding, now breaks up, and then it's just kind of going into the close now. And I don't want to take any trades here just because it's too late in the day. If you don't exit your position, your brokerage will likely kick you out. So that's how I saw the trades today. It was not too many stuff that I could see today, but I did manage to get one trade, and I'm just pretty happy with that.